Welcome back, and this is Government Property. Today we're going to talk about one of the bigger issues or root causes of a lot of veteran mental health issues. And this would be more or less what's referred to as mission first orientation. Um, for those that don't understand, what is mission first orientation? Simplest way to describe it is get the job done at whatever cost. And it's not unique to the military, but for them, for the military to succeed, it has to be accomplished. You have to do it. What does this look like? Or actually, even better yet, where does it start at? It starts in basic training, boot camp, etc. It starts there. The first parts of mission first orientation are you are trained to take orders. And some people are like, oh no, duh, you're trained to take orders. That's part of being in the military. Yeah, I understand that. But taking orders is different than being told to do something. In the military, you are literally trained to follow orders until it kills you. Literally. And if it doesn't kill you, great. If you get injured, wonderful. You survive and maybe they patch you up and send you back. But you're trained to literally follow orders to your detriment. And it's part of the military. It's part of getting the job done. Part of that mission first orientation. The biggest issue with that, though, is you're trained when you come in. We're all little squishy flesh blobs. We make it to MEPS and then go from MEPS to our holdover pre-basic training because sometimes they're full when you get there. Get to your training station. Yeah, we're all just little fleshy, gooey flesh balls. You leave basic training after 8 weeks, whenever you get into your unit, or whenever you get through your training unit, and you come out the other side and you are conditioned, trained, you are considered to be a soldier, a Marine, an airman, a seaman, etc. And part of that training is military discipline. Part of that training is being able to follow an order even if it kills you. Now, why is that important? It seems kind of, mindless to say, oh, well, it's not mindless, but it seems kind of, silly to go, oh, they're training you to take orders until you kill yourself. Well, yeah, that's kind of important. I mean, you can't take an objective unless you're going to send people to die. And that's just one aspect of it. The other part of mission first orientation is that, like in the civilian world, mission first orientation, do whatever it takes to get the job completed. If you're, I hold a journeyman electrician's license. I did that for many years. And one of the aspects of that was, hey, I ordered parts. The parts on here. I can do nothing. I mean, I can do some minor stuff, but I can't move forward on my objective because the parts are held up, or I didn't get all the parts. Like I ordered three shipments, 3/4 inch EMT, and I got 2 bundles of 3/4 inch EMT. I can't finish the job without getting another bundle there. In the military, if you put your infantry, your airborne infantry, on 3 Chinooks and one of them has problems and has to turn around, those other 2 Chinooks are still going to the objective and they're going to attempt to attack and assault it, short however many troops were on that other helicopter. Well, they might be able to fly them back out, but they're not there at the initial part of it. Mission first is you literally try to complete the mission with whatever you got, even if it kills you. And that's that's like the foundation of it. What you went into in mission first orientation, though, is also that in the heat of battle or when you're dealing with stuff, you don't have time to process. It's part of the training. You don't have time to process the grief, the emotion, the loss of human life, the injury, both physical and mental, that occurs to you. You don't have time to process it. And you lie to yourself. And you tell yourself, when I get done with this, should I survive, there will be time for me to process this. You're right, but the time never happens. Because as soon as you get back, you rest, you recover, you're back out to another mission, you're back out to another patrol, you're back out to working on whatever it was you were working on. And do that for 9 months, do that for 10 months, do that for 12 months. You get home, and you have 9 months, or however many months you were deployed, of unresolved issues. But you get back to your duty station, you have a couple of weeks of leave, but you get back, you go back to your job, and because you're in that environment, you still don't process it. And part of the training, part of that training is just that you're not allowed to process, you're not allowed to feel. You're not allowed to feel the pain, you're not allowed to feel the emotional burden, you're not allowed to process the stress because the mission comes first, which means you will literally destroy yourself and ignore everything else going on to process this. And some people, they only have a very small amount of it. Basically, they have a very small like bag of holding, D&D reference. They have a very they have a very small capacity, emotional and mental, for how much they can store before it pops. And when it pops, what happens is they get run over by everything. It's not a little small bit; it's everything runs them over. It runs them over. It smacks them in the face, and now they start dealing with the anxiety, the grief, and it all hits them at once. And if this happens while they're still active, whether it's in the combat zone or back in the reserve, back in the rear, it ends up in a situation of they don't have the mental health care there to process it, and then they get, I won't use the term bullied, but they have their balls busted basically by everybody else around them, telling them to suck it up, telling them they're weak, telling them, hey, don't do this. And I mean, there's a few that will sit there and try to listen to them, be compassionate, but for the most part, it's like, hey, you don't have time to feel this. You don't even have time. You don't have time to have an emotional break. And so that's part of the mission first orientation that messes veterans up. But then there's when they get out. Once we're trained with mission first orientation, it's in there. It doesn't go away, and it's because it's not just military based. Like I said, I've seen it. It's go work on the job, go work in the trades, get the job done, whatever the cost. Sometimes this means working your ass off, working extra hours, getting the job done right. Other times it means cutting corners. I mean, sometimes it means cutting corners. Same thing in the business world. Got to make that sale, got to make that deal, whatever the cost. Sometimes it's doing it ethically, sometimes it's doing it unethically. And so you'll run into this when you're in the civilian side. The issue therein, though, is that because, and this is both for veterans and therapists, understand this. The number of veterans I've worked with that have this specific issue, that when they are given a task, when they are working for somebody, especially right after they get out of the service, they will work themselves to death. They will work themselves into burnout. They will work themselves into mental depression because they're just doing it, going full balls. And the companies they're working for love this highly productive person. Ask him to do anything. He'll pop and say, yes, sir, no, sir. She'll say, yes, sir, no, sir. Bam, oh, yes, sir. Well, I understand. The military, sir, is for both, is how you refer to officers. Generally, if you can say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It depends. It's discretional. At least it was when I was in. It was always, if it was a female major, it's yes, sir, no, sir, whatever. But it's one of those issues they run into, and something I came across as a therapist working with veterans as a veteran is I would say here's some homework. Go do this homework and take care of this. Just process through, like do some journaling or just write something. I'm not a big fan of journaling, but write it down. Do some things. Here's your homework, and they bring back the homework, and they were so much worse for it. And I was like, what's going on here? I mean, I didn't understand. And as I talked to them, I realized that I had given them the instructions on to do this mission, thinking like a civilian therapist, which like, oh, I'm going to give this to them, and they're going to go to a certain point, and they're going to stop because they can't do it anymore because it overloads them. And then we can talk about what got them to that point. That's not always how it works, but sometimes it does, depending on how you're working with your client. The issue is that in the veterans case, they would get to that point and then push beyond it to their detriment. And so then I had to do extra work to bring it back, and I learned something very, maybe it was just a lack of experience with that, or maybe it was just dealing with veterans directly, but at the end of the day, I have, the valuable lesson here as a therapist to learn working with veterans is you have to spell out that they can stop. You have to tell them when you get to a point that it's overloading you, stop. You don't want to hurt yourself, which is goes completely against Mission First Orientation, because Mission First Orientation is your mission is to do everything in your power to complete the objective, even if it kills you. And when you assign them a task, your goal is to not have them re-injure yourself. So valuable lesson that I learned many, many years ago. Hopefully I can pass that on to my fellow therapists that are watching this, and to veterans, and to my fellow brothers and sisters at arms. When you're out of the military, you aren't following orders, and you need to take care of yourself. Which, again, is why I'm here, why I'm talking with us, why I'm trying to help us through this. So, Mission First Orientation is one of the key root causes to a lot of veteran issues. PTSD, burnout, insubordination, working ourselves, like high stress anxiety, because you deal with both trying everything in your power to finish the objective to your detriment and repressing everything that happened, your emotions, your emotions, your feelings, your grief, your trauma, all of it, just shove it down. And then inevitably what happens at some point, that bubble pops and it runs you over. And I refer to it as you get run over by a tsunami of everything you haven't dealt with. And, I mean, it may sound like it's my soapbox on this one, but yeah, the military doesn't do any kind of good job at mental health training. And they have very limited resources, as in they have resources, but you're not allowed to use them. And when I say you're not allowed to use them, is you're told, oh, these things exist and you can use them, but you're strongly encouraged not to. Because Lord forbid that what's been going on inside the company ever get out to anyone else. We don't want anyone finding out that our duty staff sergeant is trying to sexually assault the female soldiers. We're keeping that all under hush-hush. Yeah, the number of female veterans that I've worked with that are dealing with military sexual trauma because of stuff like that, well, let's just say it's an epidemic in the military based on just the population I'm working with. And and again, that causes all kinds of other trauma because you're still following orders. You're still mission first. I'm not allowed, I can't talk about this. I got to go about this thing, this trauma that happened, this horrible thing. And it can destroy people's minds, their lives, and everything else. And then we get out. And even if we find a therapist to start processing through it, the therapist needs to understand that we unconsciously will attempt to follow their orders to our detriment to complete a mission that's trying to heal us, but it's trying to heal us, but we'll hurt ourselves doing it. So, to my brothers and sisters in arms, please, sit back and work on how often you're doing things too much. You're trying to complete the objective to your detriment. You're out. You don't have to do that. If you're working for yourself, obviously, like I am, hey, it happens. You're going to push yourself, but you need to work. And I'll touch on this in some later episodes, specifically self-care and de-stressing techniques and the biomechanics behind some of them. But at the end of the day, you got to take care of yourself. And if you're a therapist, hopefully this has been helpful. If you're a veteran, hopefully this has been helpful. If you're still in active duty or you're still doing something and you're like, hey, this makes sense, this is clicking, like this, share this, show it to somebody that needs to see it. I'm one voice. I'm one voice in a million. I'm not trying to make a name for myself out here, but I'm trying to help you guys. And at the end of the day, if I can at least, if even one of you finds help and finds healing, I've done my job. And hopefully you'll spread the word, because other veterans and military personnel need to know what's going on with this. Because if we don't, we're just going to keep having an epidemic of brothers and sisters getting out of the military, taking their lives, living lives miserably, suffering through stuff and not knowing why. That's not right. We served, we made a decision, we're here, we deserve to live life to its fullest, not spend the rest of our lives beating our heads against a brick wall trying to figure out why we're screwed up. So like I said, hopefully I've been informative. If you like what you see, leave a like, subscribe, share it. I'll be putting these things out every week or two because, again, At the end of the day, my primary focus are my clients, and you guys, I'll try to do what I can, but I got to help those who are in need. So, this is Government Property, signing out.